January 18, 2013. 10:12 p.m. Flight 207 had just departed from Rio de Janeiro, its destination, Lisbon. A peaceful 9-hour journey across the vast Atlantic Ocean lay ahead. But just 3 hours after takeoff, something happened that would shock the entire world. A massive airliner carrying hundreds of souls vanished from the radar without a single distress signal. What followed was a story of a silent killer in the sky, a fatal mistake, and the incredible will to survive against all odds. Flight 207 was operated by Aerolus Air, one of Europe's fastest-growing airlines. The aircraft, an Aerolus A330, was widely regarded as one of the safest and most reliable planes ever made. On board were 231 passengers and 12 crew members, all settling in for the long overnight journey. In the cockpit sat Captain Hugo Ramirez, a highly decorated pilot with 22 years of experience under his belt. Beside him was First Officer Clara Mendes. At just 27 years old, she was one of the youngest pilots in the airline's history, bright and exceptionally skilled. As the plane climbed out of Rio, everything seemed perfect. The sky was clear, communication with air traffic control was normal, and the mood inside the cabin was calm. But 2 hours into the flight, that calm was shattered. At around 12:45 a.m., deep over the Atlantic, passengers felt a sudden, sharp drop. The cabin lights flickered erratically. Then, a horrifying sound filled the air. The engines screamed, a strained, desperate noise as if they were struggling to breathe. Inside the cockpit, chaos erupted. A symphony of alarms blared as warning lights flashed across the control panel. The airspeed indicators, crucial for flight, were going haywire, displaying wildly contradictory readings. Captain Hugo ordered a full systems check, but the aircraft's central computer, its electronic brain, had gone completely blank. "Maybe a lightning strike," Clara suggested, her voice tense. But a look outside the cockpit window revealed only an endless expanse of silent, starless darkness. There was no storm, no lightning, just the black ocean below. At 12:47 a.m., the plane lost all contact with air traffic control. It had become a ghost ship in the night sky. In this critical moment, instead of following standard procedure and declaring an emergency, Captain Hugo Ramirez made a decision that would seal the fate of nearly everyone on board. He tried to fix the problem manually. He was convinced it was just a minor sensor issue, not a flight-critical failure that threatened the entire aircraft. Against protocol for night flights over the ocean, he even disengaged the autopilot, determined to fly the plane himself. He believed his decades of experience and his gut instincts were more reliable than what he saw as faulty technology. Within minutes, the plane's nose began to tilt down, just a few degrees, an almost imperceptible change that went unnoticed by the crew who were busy trying to diagnose the problem. The altitude began to drop. 36,000 feet, 33,000, 28,000. "Captain, we're descending!" Clara shouted, her voice laced with panic as she watched the altimeter fall. But Hugo, overconfident in his own abilities, refused to pull the plane up too aggressively. He was certain the instruments were lying. He didn't trust the readings. That single moment of pride, that refusal to accept that he might be wrong, would cost hundreds of lives. By 12:51 a.m., the plane was in a steep, uncontrolled dive, dropping fast through the radar blind zones over the middle of the Atlantic. It was invisible to the world. Inside the cabin, absolute terror reigned. Passengers screamed as oxygen masks fell from the ceiling. In the final terrifying minutes, some prayed, others held their loved ones tight. A few tried to send final text messages, heartbreaking goodbyes that would never be delivered. The flight data recorder, recovered later, revealed the plane's final moments. It hit the ocean at about 300 kilometers per hour. It didn't explode on impact. Instead, it broke apart slowly as the crushing force of the freezing water rushed in. Miraculously, 18 people survived the initial impact. they found themselves thrown into the pitch-black, freezing waves, clinging desperately to floating pieces of wreckage. Among them was a Brazilian musician named Rafael Lima. Throughout the impossibly long night, he kept singing softly, his voice a faint beacon of hope, trying to keep the other survivors awake and fighting. But as the hours passed, the cold and the exhaustion took their toll. When the sun finally rose, only 6 remained. For 3 agonizing days, Flight 207 was officially missing. Families gathered at airports in Lisbon and Rio, their faces etched with a desperate hope that slowly turned to despair. Then, a Portuguese Navy ship, scouring the vast search area, spotted a shimmering oil slick on the water's surface, followed by floating debris. Among the wreckage was a section of the plane's tail, the airline's blue and white logo still eerily visible against the dark water. When the black box was finally recovered from the ocean floor, investigators pieced together the tragic truth. The plane's pitot tubes, small external sensors that measure airspeed, had frozen over. It was a rare but known weather phenomenon that can occur at high altitudes. This malfunction caused the autopilot to disengage. The captain's fatal decision to ignore the conflicting instrument readings and his co-pilot's warnings led the aircraft into an aerodynamic stall from which they never recovered. The investigation concluded that had he trusted his co-pilot, followed protocol, and declared a mayday, the system's backup procedures could have kicked in and saved the aircraft. In 2014, the official investigation closed. The airline paid millions in compensation to the victims' families. But for them, the money meant little. They said only one thing truly mattered: ensuring that no pilot should ever let pride silence protocol again. Even today, the story of Flight 207 is taught in flight schools across the globe. It serves as a chilling reminder that technology can fail, but when a pilot's ego replaces their humility, the consequences are catastrophic. Lives are lost, not to the storm outside, but to the one brewing inside the cockpit. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into events that changed our world. Stay safe.